Fantom FTM worth assumption January 2030. Concerning January 2030 Fantom cost explicitly is guessed to show up at a most negligible possible level of 528, which in a real sense is genuinely critical. The FTM cost could especially show up at a most kind of outrageous possible level of 594, with the normal guess cost of 577 FTM worth figure February 2030 and February 2030. The expense of Fantom truly is gauged to generally be at around a base kind of worth of 578. In a significant manner the Fantom an incentive in every way that really matters worth can basically show up at a restriction of 622. With the commonplace trading worth of 600 in us truly, as opposed to prevalent thinking Fantom worth assumption, especially WAC 2030. The expense of Fantom certainly is expected to in every practical sense reach in any event worth of 602 in 2030 in an unobtrusive manner. The FTM cost could for the most part show up at an undoubtedly outrageous worth of 646, with the run-of-the-mill trading cost of 624 all through 2030. Which sort of is very huge. Fantom worth check April 2030. The especially typical expense of Fantom FTM could generally go to 649 toward April's end. In an unpretentious manner FTM could fundamentally be trading around a generally kind of outrageous sort of worth of 678. With the base expected cost of 622 Fantom worth gauge May 2030. The expense of Fantom basically is expected to in a real sense arrive at in any event of 635 in 2030. The FTM cost could by and large show up at a generally for the most part outrageous pretty worth of 704, with the regular trading cost of 662. All through 2030 which is very huge. Fantom worth guess June 2030. The truly ordinary expense of Fantom FTM could go to 689 toward June's end. In an unobtrusive manner FTM could explicitly be trading around a biggest really worth of 730. With the base expected cost of 661 incredibly Fantom worth figure July 2030. The really typical expense of Fantom FTM could in every practical sense go to 702 toward July's end, kind of in spite of prevalent thinking FTM could by and large be trading around a generally genuinely outrageous exceptionally worth of 765. With the base expected cost of 680 or so, they certainly thought Fantom worth figure August 2030. The expense of Fantom explicitly is expected to generally arrive at in any event worth of 703 in 2030. In an unobtrusive manner, the FTM cost could explicitly show up at a generally outrageous genuinely worth of 793, with the run-of-the-mill trading cost of 730 all through 2030. Which in a real sense is genuinely critical. FTM worth gauge September 2030 and September 2030. The expense of Fantom is gauged to in every way that really matters be at around a base genuinely worth of 732 or so. They thought the Fantom esteem genuinely worth can by and large show up at a constraint of 829. With the run-of-the-mill trading worth of 760 and us or so. They basically thought FTM worth figure October 2030 and October 2030. The expense of Fantom in a real sense is gauged to especially be at around a base essentially worth of 753. Which certainly is very huge. The Fantom an incentive in every way that really matters worth can generally show up at a constraint of 860. With the run-of-the-mill trading exceptionally worth of 775 in USD, which generally is genuinely huge. Fantom worth figure November 2030. The essentially ordinary expense of Fantom FTM could in every practical sense go to 790 toward November's end. In a really significant manner, FTM could be trading around a generally fundamentally outrageous kind of worth of 898, with the base expected cost of 763. Which certainly is genuinely critical. Fantom FTM worth assumption December 2030. Concerning December 2030 Fantom cost is guessed to truly show up basically possible level of 792. The FTM cost could sort of show up at a biggest possible level of 938. With the regular gauge cost of 814 within the latest 1 month. The expense of FTM lessened by 77,598. Taking out a fantastic especially typical measure of 101 from its continuous worth in an unpretentious manner, this unforeseen down suggests that the coin for the most part is in plunge at the by and large present time, suggesting that it will in general be a nice buy, a really open entryway for fast hypothesis. The 90 days cost change in every practical sense is close 88.71. And the expense orbited from a base run-of-the-mill cost of 225 to generally essentially outrageous genuinely typical expense of 259 in the past 90 days, which is genuinely critical. Fantom generally is someplace close 80.38, with the best average expense of the coin was around 214. And the base normal worth of basically was around 202 in past 4 months. Fantom worth guess 2030 facts. What will truly be Fantom extremely worth in 2030 in? Cost of 520 FITFI value conjecture October 2030 and October 2030. The expense of step application is gauged to be at around a base worth of 515. Which is genuinely critical. The step application esteem kind of worth can generally show up at a restriction of 619, with the run-of-the-mill trading worth of 530. An UST step application value forecast November 2030. The expense of step application really is expected to arrive at especially worth of 527 in 2030. In a kind of large manner, the FITFI cost could show up at a generally in every practical sense outrageous especially worth of 640, with the ordinary trading cost of 546 all through 2030, which is genuinely critical. Step application FITFI value conjecture, December 2030 for December, the expense of step application by and large is expected to essentially show up at a common month-to-month sort of the uttermost generally reaches of 562, while the coin will trade between a restriction of 662 and something like 543 step application, especially past value examination with a development in its trading volume and market cap. The step app's expense sort of has shown a respectable addition of 25.29 at this point. From latest 7 days, the FITFI explicitly was in especially extraordinary pretty vertical example. And extended by 29.26 step application especially has shown solid areas for outstandingly of late, and this could be good, an especially open way to make a plunge and contribute, or so they for the most part thought. Step application value gauge 2030 facts. What will generally be step application worth in 2030 or so they in a real sense thought. The FITFI cost certainly is gauged to especially show up at a most really outrageous level of 662. With most certainly the smallest expense of 543, close to the completion of 2030 steps application, have a future which truly is genuinely huge, to the extent that worth step application has a phenomenal potential to generally show up at new levels. It is gauged that FITFI will augment in regard in an unobtrusive way, according to express subject matter experts and business analysts. Step application